On Monday, Trump's company announces their new business, Trump Mobile, that will offer cell service for $47.45 and sell gold phones for $4.99 by the end of the summer. Eric Trump said that the phones will be built in the US and a call center will remain in the US as well. Critics say that this, along with Trump's sneakers, watches, Bibles, and many more products, continues to draw ethical concerns that the US president is profiting off of his position. The next day, Trump demands for an unconditional surrender from Iran's supreme leader, and that everyone in Tehran needs to evacuate. These posts were just part of the momentum of Israel preparing to strike Iran in the country's capital. By the end of the day on Tuesday, Israel did strike Tehran. However, it's unclear of the extent of the attack and damage at that time. But what is clear is that the US is building up its military in the Middle East, and Trump is fully supporting Israel's attacks. Then on Wednesday, the MAGA world appears to be splintering on Trump's war stance on Iran. In the past few days, Trump has expressed his support for Israel's attacks on Iran, which has upset some in the MAGA world because Trump and his team ran on an America First campaign. That includes no new wars. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, and Charlie Kirk have expressed their concerns with the US getting involved in the Israel-Iran conflict. But most likely they'll fall in line eventually if Trump continues to aid Israel or even attack Iran. Trump, of course, said in his typical gaslighting way, "My supporters are more in love with me today, and I am more in love with them, even more than they were at election time when we had a total landslide." The next day, an appeals court lets Trump keep control of the National Guard troops deployed in LA. This decision halts a ruling from a lower court who found Trump illegally activated soldiers because the judge said that even though presidents can take control during times of rebellion or dangers of rebellion, the protests in LA fall far short of that. However, the appellate court said the Trump administration provided enough evidence to show it had a defensible rationale for doing so by citing undisputed violent acts by protesters against federal officers. This current ruling means the control of the National Guard will stay in federal hands as the lawsuit continues to unfold. Then on Friday, Mahmoud Khalil was freed from federal immigration detention after spending 104 days there. Khalil was detained on March 8th and was on track to be deported for his role in pro-Palestinian protests on the Columbia University campus. The judge said it would be highly unusual for the government to continue detaining a legal US resident who was unlikely to flee and hadn't been accused of any violence, and that the government had not met the standards for his detention. Of course, the government is appealing this decision, and we'll see where this case goes from here. Then on Saturday, we learned that a law student won an award by his teacher for his paper that promoted white nationalism. The student took a seminar on originalism taught by federal judge John Badalamenti, which is a legal theory favored by many conservatives that seek to interpret the Constitution based on its meaning when it was adopted. Originalism is in direct opposition to living constitutionalism theory that contends that constitutional law should evolve in response to changing circumstances and values. In his paper, the student said that the phrase, "we the people," refers exclusively to white people, and that turning over the country to a non-white majority would constitute a terrible crime. It also argued that non-whites should be stripped of their voting rights and given 10 years to move to another country. Critics of originalist theory quickly point out that the Founding Fathers disagreed on many things, and that's why there are several compromises in the Constitution, and that's why there was a date set for the banning of the slave trade in the Constitution, and that's why there's rules for amending the Constitution, and that's why the Constitution was written with specific language that would allow liberty to expand to other groups as the country matured. Not only that, while the Constitution was being adopted, opposing political parties immediately formed that disagreed on aspects of the Constitution. So to say that there was one unified meaning held by all the Founding Fathers is either ignorant or disingenuous, and that white national arguments like this have been around since the Civil War. Finally, on Sunday, we learned the US bombed several nuclear sites in Iran. Trump addressed the nation, saying that it was a military success, and that the US completely obliterated Iran's nuclear sites, and that Iran would now have to make peace. However, there is doubt of the complete obliteration of these sites, and even the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane, said that the final battle damage will take time to assess. Iran's Atomic Energy Organization confirmed the attacks, but insisted that its nuclear programs will not be stopped. Iran then retaliated by firing missiles at Israel, but have yet to attack any American sites. The US State Department is urging Iran to back down, but if not, it appears that the US is willing to escalate their attacks.